Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Biker Garage. I'm your host, the Ghost Biker, and we've got a great show for you tonight. I'd like to say hello to Michelle and Vicky and everyone else that's entering the chat room. If you have any questions or any comments or anything, please feel free to go ahead and put those in, and we'll put those out for our guest as soon as we get started and get to a breaking point. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week as well as a wonderful Mother's Day for the mothers out there. I know I spent the past weekend up with my mom, and we had a great time. And so I hope that you all too had a great Mother's Day as well as a great time out there spending it with your mothers and the women that are special to you. So I'm not going to waste any time in getting my guest on here. I'm very excited. She has been a paranormal investigator for over 15 years now, and she assists with paranormal investigations and tours and such at the Lotz House in Franklin, Tennessee. I hope you guys will help me welcome my guest, Miss Nikki Edge. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing lovely. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight to come on and tell us about yourself and some different experiences that you've had, as well as information on this very cool location.
Sweet. I
We
love
got
this place.
Great. Well, I know that I've heard a lot of buzz and chatter about it, and I myself need to get up there and check it out because I know you all are only just a few hours from where I'm at. And actually, I went to school in Murfreesboro, and
cool.
so I was just down the street essentially from Franklin.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the paranormal?
Okay. I think my first paranormal experience, although at the time I didn't realize it was, I was about 2 or 3, and I would see a Native American gentleman that was in my room. I grew up here in Spring Hill, and that was kind of a thoroughfare for some of the tribes. So it makes sense knowing what I know now as an adult that I would see him. But since then, I've always been interested. I started doing like those little like ghost walks type things. That's how I started, just getting information, learning little tidbits here and there. And then of course I would watch the shows. But as far as personally investigating either on a team or with just friends, that started probably about 10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Officially. That wasn't very serious at that point, but it was just, I got some time, let's go here. But I did do the team thing probably the last 5 or 6 years I was on a team. I've been on a few. And that was really consistent, like almost every weekend.
Right.
So slowing down just a little bit, but that's really quick version.
Well, did you have any kind of specific role on the team? I mean, do you have, as far as like, do you have any type of spiritual gifts or anything like that you would do on the team, or was it more just kind of like historian investigating? Did you have any particular role?
I started out, the first team I was on was actually at Ripavilla Plantation.
Okay.
In Spring Hill. That's been in the news a little bit lately.
Yeah.
But at the time they had allowed teams, and that's probably about 10 years they allowed teams there. My role in that one was more or less just an investigator. I didn't have like specifics.
Yeah.
I would help with whatever they needed. After that team, there was a gentleman that was also on that team. We left that team and he created one, and we went down to Henry Horton. And with him, I would do some research and stuff, but mostly just an investigator.
Gotcha.
And then I was on the Black Wolf for a little while, with Todd and Leanne and the Sheilas and Beth and everybody. And we kind of shared roles, I guess you'd say, you know. We kind of did whatever needed to be done, I guess.
Yeah.
But I would just claim investigator. That's what I would officially claim. And the hugger. That was my job. um, as far as abilities or gifts, the first two teams I was on, it wasn't really a thing that they were into using. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that they didn't believe in it. It was just, I don't know, just wasn't something I used on events. But
Mm-hmm.
with the Black Wolf, quite the team was has different gifts. So we would all use
Mm-hmm.
whatever we needed at whatever time we needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily claim publicly specific abilities. If you're around
Sure.
me, it'll come out if it's supposed to.
Right.
I would definitely claim being empathic. That's
Okay.
something I've been so sensitive my entire life with. So,
Gotcha. So do you have any specific favorite tools you like to use when you're investigating?
uh, I really like my SB7, although I've lost it. It's a
Mm.
little tragic. I can't find it. Um, but when I don't have that, I do like dowsing rods.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can do so much with those. Then it goes far beyond paranormal investigations.
Yes.
So that's why it's one of my favorites. It's just so multi-useful. It's a lot of things. So, but they're kind of neat. If you know how to use them properly, and you can really feel the energy that goes through them, and
Yes.
it's a pretty neat and sometimes crazy feeling.
I love my dowsing rods,
Yeah.
and the different locations that I've investigated, you can really tell the locations where the spirits are familiar with those tools versus the other locations where maybe they're not used as often.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they didn't use them back during that time frame whenever they were, being used for like witching water and that sort of
Yes.
thing. I definitely love my rods, and I like my SB7 too. I like to
Yeah.
kind of sometimes use them in conjunction with each other.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
like verifying your evidence. Like if you hear something through the SB7, you can be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if that was
Mm-hmm.
really true and that such and such happened, could you cross the rods? And then they cross and you're like, yay!
So how did you get involved at the Lotz House?
It's actually pretty awesome. I've been friends with some of these people for quite some time. And I knew that they had a place. I just didn't feel like it was the right time, to do that. Um, so I guess the heavens decided it was time, and so I ended up meeting up with my friends, one of the owner and the other is the director, and we were like, "Let's do this. What should we do?" And
Mm-hmm.
they're asking questions and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is cool. You guys should do it. Here's how you could do it. Here's how many people you could have." We just really talked, like had lunch as friends, and just tried to get this started.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with COVID and everything, times are crazy, and people need to make money. And one thing that
Mm-hmm.
really sells, is the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a great location,
That's
and
right.
it's a private location, so you're going to have your small groups. So you were able to keep up with, regulations and rules and all of that, minus the
Mm-hmm.
little bit when they actually fully shut down, they had to. Um, but it kind of started as a moneymaker,
Mm-hmm.
something to do when you couldn't get bigger crowds in.
Mm-hmm.
But also the beautiful thing was, as bad as COVID is in the situation, it brought people together in that they're learning history, they're
Mm-hmm.
getting, they're doing something else with their time instead of rush, rush, rush. They're enjoying life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can see it through the eyes of the people back then, when they come to see it at the Lotz House.
Yeah, that's true. So were they offering historic tours then at the time, or was the paranormal one of the first to open up there?
They were still doing things, but minus when they were like, no, everybody's got to shut down. Minus that
Yeah.
that time frame.
Mhm.
They were having people, they had their rules, their mask rules and things like that. They're
Mhm.
very, very strict about that. They make sure you wear that. They've got the
Mhm.
sanitizer. So when they were allowed to have people in, they would do that, just smaller groups.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we have a question here from
Yeah.
Miss Vicky Norris. She says, "What is Nikki Edge's favorite place to investigate, and what is one place she would love to go, such as a bucket list?"
Oh, all right. Okay. Um, Oh gosh, my favorite place, other than a historic site,
Hmm.
um, I would say I love my OSPH now. I'm gonna tell you that
Okay. Yeah.
that place is like a smorgasbord of spirits. Like you could
Hmm.
get a different kind every corner. It seems like, so it's a great place to learn and experience different things.
Yeah. And do a lot of different experiments
Oh
too,
yeah,
because
and it's huge, so there's
yeah.
plenty of space to space out,
Hmm.
and you don't have to worry about that. And you could be down one hall and do your thing, and then somebody be at the other end of that hall, and as long as you're not screaming, then you're pretty good. You can catch good evidence still.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, just such a great variety of not only disembodied voices, I mean, because these
Hmm.
things you're hearing in the moment, but also great residual and intelligent energy, both in that
Yes,
particular location.
very.
Yeah.
It is unreal. It's like
Yeah.
everywhere you turn, everywhere you look, everywhere your ear faced, you were hearing, seeing something.
Hmm.
So that would probably be my
Absolutely.
favorite, other than
Okay.
historic sites.
Okay. So, and what place would you love to go as a bucket list?
I want to go to the Winchester Mystery House.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never been in that area. Um, but there's just something about it.
Yeah.
It's the psychology of it too.
Hmm.
Because this lady, had these experiences in her life. And
Hmm.
to try to get through this life, she did the things that she had to do. So I want to know the psychology of it. Like I want to get inside her head. I want to figure it out.
Do you think the haunting was psychological, or do you think that they were actually people who were murdered by the rifles, or do you think it was kind of like a guilt, you know,
I could
psychological?
It could be sort of a psychological guilt on her part or the family's part. Oh,
Mhm.
somebody's been there. Sorry, squirrel.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
But no, I know that whomever picks up a gun
Mhm.
makes the choice to pull the trigger or not.
Mhm.
So I don't know that I would feel right her blaming herself, but she probably did to a
Mhm.
degree. I mean, people can be cruel if they've lost somebody they love for whatever reason, and it was a Winchester rifle. I mean,
Mhm.
the first thing you want to do is lash out, and she was there to lash out at, I guess.
Mhm. I mean, great answer and great question, Vicky. We've got another question here from Dr. Christy Sumner. She says you mentioned seeing a Native American spirit when you were young. Do you come from a Native American background? And if so, do you think that helps with being an empath? Good question.
That is a darn good question. Okay, um, I'm adopted,
Okay.
first and foremost, so even that does pose a few challenges to as far as finding out your Native American culture.
Hmm.
Um, because, like, for instance, on the Cherokee reservation, they have like a place you can go to, and there's like a book of names.
Okay.
Um, and you can check for your family members' names and things like that to see if they're mentioned.
Mhm.
I can't do that because not only am I adopted, but my biological mother was adopted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's really no way for me truly to find out.
Hmm.
But I did do all the ancestry things like that.
Hmm.
Nothing showed. I don't know if they're supposed to. As far as I know, they don't. I don't know.
Hmm.
It just tells you the general regions that you're from. But in my soul, I felt there was more.
Hmm.
I was more,
Hmm.
and my soul just felt like I needed to keep searching. So I found a company that's Latin America, South America type company, and they
Hmm.
test your blood for, I guess, the tribal people that are down there.
Yeah.
And it came back that I was 1%, 1% Mixteca. So that's Mexico.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't know much about it because
Hmm.
it wasn't that long ago that I found out. But so yeah, I do
Hmm.
have officially some Native American blood. I'm going to take that 1% and I'm going to run with it.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because, just looking at the history and all of that from the tribes, from the Civil War, from everything, just looking at, Tennessee as a whole,
Yeah.
they're in, because I'm in East Tennessee, so they're in Middle Tennessee where you're at. There's so much Native American, activity there, and so much history as far as the Civil War. So, and Franklin itself, has an amazing Civil War history. So, I mean, you all have a lot of great places to check out and to investigate there.
That we do. One is
so.
That is true.
So can you share a little bit of history about the Lotz House? Kind of tell us, what it is and how, some of this great history behind it, and some of the stories. We'll get into the investigation part and some of the hauntings here in a little bit. But as far as the history, can you share some of that with us?
Sure. So the guy that built it, and I love his name, and I'm giggling because it's so fun to say this. But his name is Johann Albert Lotz. And he was born in 1820 in Germany, and he came over, and I think it was 1855. There he is. He's so sweet looking. He really is. But he came over in 1855, and he comes to Franklin. Well, all right, let me backtrack. He was over in America before that, but he settled and came to Franklin area. Correct myself here. In 1855. And he buys 5 acres of land from the dude across the street, otherwise known as Fountain Branch Carter of the famous Carter House.
Okay.
Yep. And so he's got his 5 acres, and he's building this house, and he finishes it in like 1858. Yeah, that's 3 years. Sorry. I'm having to do math, and that's but yeah, it took 3 years to build completely. And what's great about that, as long as that is that he did this by himself.
Wow.
He is a master woodworker from Germany. And so he's coming over here to make $1, and provide for his family. And he gets here and he's doing all this work himself. Like, the dude does not have any slave labor at all whatsoever.
Wow.
Never owned one. Was not a fan. So he did this himself, because I guess essentially, if you think about it, he's probably like, okay, well, look, this is my livelihood. This is what I do. If I don't make this myself, then I'm not truly showcasing what I can do.
That's true.
He built his home, and what's really unique about his home that he builds is these rooms have fireplaces, and each fireplace is a different wood and a different design.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can find any pictures of the home as you're talking. Okay. So,
there it is. There's one of the fireplaces. But he essentially made his home his showpiece. He would bring clients there or whatever, and they would see what he could do and what the things that he could provide. And so he does all this, and oh my God, the stairway he makes, right? And it's what they call a floating staircase. It's just stunning. It's so stunning. No, you can't slide down the banister. I've already asked. That's a no. I mean, I'm like a kid at heart. So he's got, I didn't even tell y'all who he married. Lord, forgive me for that. He married a lady over there named Margaretha.
Okay, I'll pull her up here.
I got to pay respects to the lady of the house. She might get me next time if I don't. Not really. They're good people there. But they have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe 6 or 7 kids total.
Okay.
I act like a little bit question there because she did have 1 or 2 prior to meeting him, if I understand that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear them mentioned a lot. That's why I'm a little hazy on those details.
Mm-hmm.
Once y'all do get there, the actual executive director, Thomas, he will probably know more than I do. But this family in general, Mr. Lotz was a master woodworker, but their children were very talented. Very, very talented kids. For instance, Matilda was a very famous painter. There. Like all over the world was doing paintings. And like when she was a young child, there were stories of her drawing and starting her quote paintings in the dirt. Like she just had this natural raw talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have one Paul Lotz. He was what they call
Sorry.
oh, you're fine. He's what you call like a colorist. So he worked in a photography studio. So
Mm-hmm.
he was brilliant in that way.
Gotcha.
They had a child named Augustus, and he was listed as a machinist on the U.S. Census. Basically, he holds several patents for things such as a vacuum.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Very smart family.
very like super smart. I'm like, dang, be in that family. But he also had some patents with like I don't know what the invention was called, but it sealed cans.
Okay. Hmm.
I'm sitting there finding all this stuff out because I wanted to make sure I showed y'all, and I was like, I didn't know that. Yeah, but one of the kiddos, or actually 2, sorry, the twins that they had, unfortunately, they did pass away at the age of 4. There's kind of like a mystery, like nobody really knows. A couple mysteries actually. Don't really know exactly how they died. There's some rumors like, oh, the well water was poisoned and some different things like that, but nobody knows actually. And the other mystery is we don't know exactly where they're buried.
Okay. Are there any cemeteries on the property?
No, not that we're aware of. That one of the theories of the children being buried is it's somewhere what would have been there on their 5 acres, but there's several houses and parking lots, in and around it. So if those children are still there, they're under something.
Wow.
But that's a big if. We don't know.
Sure, because I know like places like, Octagon Hall and some
Mm-hmm.
of these other locations, they've actually got a cemetery, or at least the
Right.
children were buried on the property. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to check, check around, which I'm sure a lot of the folks who work there, I'm sure they've kind of exhausted their options, I guess, to find, where some of the family may have
Yeah.
been. Yeah.
Yeah. If there was any type of cemetery there, it's not now.
Wow.
But again, I don't know if there really ever was because there's such a mystery surrounding these twins. But they did exist.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that's got me by the heartstrings. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to find those babies. I need to figure out their story, to pay tribute and respect to them. But I'm working on it.
That's the thing about the investigations and the history. I mean, it's a never-ending job when it comes to the research and stuff that's involved with all of this.
It really is, because it keeps you up at night too. Because they were people just like us, and their stories deserve to be told. And sometimes it's hard to tell them, but.
And I'm just going to continue as you talk, since that's all the pictures of the family that they had on there. Yeah. But I'm going to continue to kind of cycle through some of these pictures.
Okay.
So don't let it distract you with what you were saying, but was just going to cycle through these here.
You know who you're talking to. I'm over here like, squirrel! I'm so squirrely, if I'm being honest. But back to the house. So during the Civil War, or actually through that 5 hours of awfulness, part of the home was destroyed. So when you visit the home, the south wall, you're going to notice there's no windows. There used to be windows.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that whole side was destroyed in the war. And so Mr. Lotz built it back without the windows because, I guess at the time the prices were higher, than what he wanted to spend or whatnot. And with the war going on, I'm sure there was a lot of financial issues for a lot of people, So he built it back as best as he could and as quick as he could because he had to get his family back in their home.
Sure.
Had to make it livable. So that's why there's no windows on the south wall. When you go, you'll see. They had, cannonball come through the second floor. It goes all the way through the roof and through the second floor flooring or the bottom floor ceiling, however you want to say it. And you can actually still see that place where the cannonball hit in the
Oh, now that's really cool.
Yes, you really can. It's indented. It's dark. You can see it. You can feel it. You can get the energy off of it. Whatever you need to do, it's there. And it's pretty neat and kind of a surreal experience to see it, really.
So, not to interrupt, but is a lot of I know they have a lot of artifacts in there.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the furniture and decorum and everything, is that original or is it replicas?
It's all time period.
Okay.
The excuse me, the pieces that you're going to see that are original to the family are actually items that this guy made. They actually let you sit on the couch.
Wow. So that's actually a piece that he made.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you can see it if you put up the picture of the stairway.
Okay. This one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can see it a little bit to the left right there. It's a yellow couch.
Okay.
That is one that he made himself.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and if you look at that banister in this photo, that is actually an inverted piano leg.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And what's really special about that is at the very bottom of, you can't see it in the screen, but it goes a little bit below that. It's actually, it's so cool. You can go in there, you can tap on it, and it's like a little secret compartment that you could put the deed to your house in, money, whatever it is that you wanted to put in there.
Yeah.
And it looks just like a piece of furniture in the house.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Because, in fact, I was actually just kind of talking about that with a friend the other day because my dad did a lot of woodwork and he had made these different little key hiders and everything, just kind of using a little ingenuity, of hiding rather than just, your little traditional ones that you buy. So, when you see anything like that where someone has come up with not only a use for an item, but also kind of a little something extra, that's always very cool.
Yeah. There is one more piece too that is one that he made. I don't know if it's in one of the pictures you have.
Let's see. You need me to scroll?
I don't see it yet.
Let's see.
I don't see it. But when you walk into the house, the first room to the right, they call it the keeping room.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, there is a table that has Mr. Lotz's picture on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look underneath the tabletop, it's really ornate and beautiful. And he made that. Okay. That is a family piece. And then, of course, the mantles are things that he made.
So is the home owned by family members of the Lopes? It's always amazing to me when when homes like this, whenever the people who either moved into them or the family or whatever have saved some of these different items, they had the presence of mind to save them to give historical value to it. So is it a family that owns it or what What is his descendant still there, I guess?
Not that no, they don't own it.
Okay.
What happened was right a little bit after the war,
Mhm.
excuse me. Um, they're trying to rebuild everything, and he builds not only like his mantles and his different showpieces, he builds pianos and different things like that, works on them.
Mhm.
He made a piano at one point, and it was gorgeous from what they say. Very,
Mhm.
very ornate, and it has this eagle on it. And in each of the eagle's claws are a flag. One of the claws has an American flag that is upright, the way it should be. And
Mhm.
then the other claw holds a Confederate flag that is upside down.
Hmm.
I don't honestly know what that means exactly, other than maybe he's denouncing, and this is just me guessing, so don't quote me on it,
Mhm.
but my guess is maybe he was denouncing certain things that um, maybe that flag people think it stands for now.
Sure.
Maybe. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
But the Confederacy is catching wind of that, and they're like, oh, no, 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 no. So they go up to his house and they're like threatening him, and I don't know what all they threatened him with. I wasn't there, but
Mhm.
they made threats of some kind to him, and I guess he felt unsafe, so he takes his family, packs them up, and takes them to San Jose, California. So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know. I always get confused on the year, so I couldn't fairly quote you on the year that he left.
Mhm.
Um, but again, they can at the Lotz House when y'all go visit if you want to know. The,
Mhm.
I can't even talk. The director knows. um, but so yeah, he packs up. He's like, "Nah, dude, I'm out." And
Mhm.
so after that, the Lotz House was a variety of things. It was a boarding house at one point. If I'm not mistaken, it was a law office at some point, or some sort of office space, a flower place of some kind. And I read this somewhere when I was looking for extra little weird facts for y'all tonight. um, it's not really mentioned, but I did find, and you'll have to ask them to see if this actually happened. But I
Mhm.
found somewhere where it said it was even a haunted house for a season in 1974.
Mhm.
And I was like,
Wow.
what? That's
Wow.
crazy. So I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, but
Mhm.
there was rumors that it was going to become lots of tacos or lots of tacos, something
Oh
like that.
god.
Yes. Yes. This historic property does not need to be no taco joint. Sorry.
Right.
Like, y'all gonna have some haunted tacos. That's what's gonna go down. But no, so it was opened in, I think I've got this year right. Stuck with years. 2008, I believe it was. It was opened as a museum.
Mhm.
Um, I'll say, gosh, I never went to it that year, but I believe that was the year. So
Mhm.
at that point, you've got somebody coming in and trying to fill it with antiques and learn the
Sure.
history and do the research. And when JT comes in there and he gets it, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I need to tell these people stories." Thank God for JT and the staff that he has there now, because they're really doing this family justice, and not just this
It's
family.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's not just this family. They do tell the story of the stories that they're aware of anyway, of
Mhm.
people that live there afterwards
Okay.
stuff too. So
So, so did the Battle of Franklin, did it take place here, in essentially in the yard or near the house? Was there fighting there at the house? I mean, I know you said about the cannonball that came through. So,
yes, yes, yeah. The
so,
fighting actually started. I believe it was the 29th of November in 1864.
mhm.
Again, stuck with dates, but I believe it was November 29th, and that started down in Spring Hill, so around the area of Griffith
Okay.
Villa.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it starts down there, and then like they zoom past Hood because Hood sleeps through all this mess, right? They
Mhm.
zoom past there. They get up to Franklin near the Lopes. Sorry, I'm like fuzzy. I talk with my hands. So the next day they're up there by Lotz. And then on the morning of the 30th, the Lotz family wakes up and there's like fighting everywhere and like all these dead people and like dead horses and even a young drummer boy, which they actually
Wow.
have. Yes, they actually have his drum on display in the Lotz house.
I just saw that picture. I'll go to that
Yes,
now. Yeah.
yes, there it is.
Wow.
Yeah, and that young boy's story is now told. And that, after finding that, you can't bring the young boy back, unfortunately. You can't bring any of them back. But what you can
Hmm.
do is keep their memory alive. So
Absolutely.
they brought that in and they're telling his story.
That's
So,
wonderful.
so there was very much tons and tons and tons of fighting. I actually saved a few quotes for you guys. I'll have to read them because I can't remember them to save my life. That's
Oh,
why I never made it
absolutely.
in theater. I can't remember lines. But it says, I don't know who made this quote, but it says, it was as if the devil had full possession of the earth. Let's see.
Wow.
Another one was, it was so loud you could not hear yourself scream. And then there was a Confederate general, Frank Cheatham, that said, the dead were stacked like sheaves of grain. You could walk on fields of bodies without your feet even touching the ground.
That's incredible.
So
Wow.
it was a mess, a very, very big mess. Um, just bodies everywhere, horses everywhere. Like the Lotz family, actually, when all this started, they like take off right across the street to their buddy Fountain Branch Carter's house, and they go hide out in the basement until all of this mess is over with.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it was bad. And the Lotz house was actually used as a field hospital also. That's why you see the big red flag. There was somebody the other day that asked me about the red flag. Well, what does that red flag mean? And I'm like, oh, that's easy. That just signifies, there it is. That just signifies that it was a hospital. And
Gotcha.
it served what they call federal troops, which is what we call unions, same thing, and Confederate troops. So it served both.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So he was really, he may not have been a Confederate sympathizer, but as far as the hospital, he was somewhat neutral, I
Right.
guess.
Well,
Yeah.
essentially, they came in, and I don't know what side did this, so I can't quote you on it. But in times of war, they need things, and
Hmm.
they don't necessarily ask nicely.
Right. Right.
So the Lotz family suffered a great deal. Something they really couldn't prevent. They had all this property. They had a barn destroyed, like his woodworking shed.
Hmm.
Matilda had her pet calf killed, so they could eat. It's very devastating for a child. I believe she was 5 or 6 when the war was going on. I think something like that, possibly
Hmm.
6. Um, so that's very traumatic. Your
Absolutely.
pet. They killed your pet so they could eat. Like it's you remember that story because when we get to talking about the activity, I have a theory about that. If I don't have a squirrel moment and forget it.
I'll make sure you remember.
Good. Somebody's got to keep track for me.
So
But yeah.
as far as activity, so they had the war there. You said it was a field hospital. Also, you said that there were other families and stuff that lived there. Who are
Yep.
some of the resident spirits that yourself, as well as some other investigators, have encountered at this location?
I broke it down by room.
Okay.
Um, but I can talk generalized.
No, go for it. And if the room is in one of these pictures, let me go back. Um, just let me know, and I'll pull that up.
Okay. The first one I wrote down to talk about was the stairs or the entryway.
Hmm.
Um, in that one, you've got reports of a lady that has been seen walking down the stairs. She's at that point, I have not heard, I could be wrong, but just what I've heard, this particular one was not speaking or anything. She was just seen walking.
Okay.
Um, we have in there, and I think it's a picture. I can't tell if that's her cow picture or not in there, but there's several of the pictures. They'll have like these little bitty lights above them,
Okay.
and there is one of the pictures that the light just seemingly comes on above this cow. See, I remembered Miranda. I remember this now. I'm going to talk about it. But this, my theory kind of is she's got her pet cow that was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so my thinking is the reason the light comes on above this particular painting is
Mm-hmm.
because, that was something she loved.
Yeah.
And it was, some of us think of our dogs, cats, or horses
Mm-hmm.
or whatever as our pets. And
Mm-hmm.
she really loved this cow. So my theory is maybe she just wants us to know. Maybe she wants us to talk about it. She was really an avid animal person.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, hey, look, I love cows. Do you love cows? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my silly theory on that. But also in the foyer there, you can't see it in the picture, but when you walk in the door, there's a guest book and a little place to the left where some of the employees have business cards. After COVID had started and they kind of had to shut down briefly,
Mm-hmm.
they had come back to check in ever so often on the house and the heat and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the cards of one of the employees was laying on the ground. And my theory on that is this particular employee was, not able to come in because the owner was the only one that did, because he was the closest to the home, I guess, is my thinking. And maybe the spirits were like, well, where's Thomas? Where's our friend? Like, why isn't he coming back?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that might have been what they were doing.
I can understand that.
Because he takes care of the place, he says hello, he says good night,
Mm-hmm.
when there's an investigation there, he'll go in there and he's like, oh, there's people coming tonight, just like you would warn your family, oh, you know what, wear your shorts, boys, don't walk around in your underwear because there's people coming to see you tonight, essentially. That's kind of how he treats them, just like they're living, like you and I. The gift shop, that one's a good. I don't know if that one's. I don't know if you had that picture, but the gift shop.
I don't think so.
I don't see it in there. But in the gift shop, I know orbs are controversial. Some people believe in them, sometimes they don't. But there is camera footage where these things don't look like bugs. They don't look like dust. But of course, it's up to interpretation what you believe. But I've seen some pretty interesting ones. I will say that. There's sounds that you can hear on their security cameras, where I've heard drumming. I've heard voices on there when the director's like sending them to me, like, oh my God, Nikki, you got to hear this. This happened overnight. And they're like, we know there's nobody in there. There was something on the mantle. I don't know if it was a horseshoe picture or like one of the little shadow boxes with the little bullets and stuff, artifacts in it. But you can see it in this video, and it like, okay, where's my camera? You can see it like barely teetering, and then all of a sudden it stops, and then it goes boop and falls right off the mantle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there's like nobody there. It's like way after closing hours, and in there, I've been in there just talking in between tours with my friends, and you feel like I feel like it's a gentleman in there. There was a gentleman who passed away in the house some years after the Lotz left. McGee was his last name, J.A. McGee, I believe. I feel like it might be his spirit. That's just my thinking. But we were sitting in some chairs, and like all of a sudden you get a cold breeze, and you're like, oh my God, there's no draft. You're like, even though you've been in there 1,000 times, you're like analyzing everything. There's the vents, and like, nah, there's no airflow. So why am I freezing? So you just, it's probably Mr. McGee, maybe I'm sitting in a chair or something. He wants to sit down. So you move over and let him have a chair, kind of thing. Oh gosh. It's
Vicky
great.
says, what about the kids' spirits?
Oh yes. In the kids' room, they're not really specific to their room. They kind of go wherever, but, the kids are very, very, very active at the house. They like to laugh. Like you've heard giggles, like in EVPs. If I was singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and although that was not it's a modern song, they giggled while I was singing. And I don't know if they just didn't like my singing or what it was, but they got a laugh out of it. So it was great. And the children are very, I say mischievous. They're not mischievous in a bad way. They do cute little things, let you know they're there. Like some of the bullets, artifacts, and little things that they have on display there. Actually, there was a bowl or some in the owner's office or director's office, which is like kind of really almost like right across from the children's room. And somehow these bullets came from either there or there were some downstairs. So they came from somewhere. And somehow they made it into this kid's room on the floor, and they're like different shapes or like words or, like they were playing. So that was kind of neat. Like they do little things like that, and they'll poke you, sometimes. Oh my gosh, and they love cat balls. The children love those things. Love them. We had a team come in not that long ago. PRGI, they're from Chattanooga. Very military precision like group. They're so organized. But they came in and they had some cat balls up there in the kids' room, and they were just rolling it back and forth, just trying to get the kids to play. Well, there is a slight slant to the floor. So if y'all ever go, be aware of that. But it was going against the grain, so to speak. It was going against the slant. It started to go down like the floor slanted, and then all of a sudden it took off in an opposite direction. And
oh wow!
And so it's like, no, like there's a slant, but there's no way it's going to go back up that slant and to the from where I was sitting, it was to the left. When it happened, and I was like, that just doesn't happen naturally. So
and I'm sure knowing that group and everything, they probably tried to recreate it as well to see. And so that's always cool when you have someone come in and they're able to do something like that and then try to recreate and see if it does go with the natural slant, it's going to do it that time, or it's going to or you'll be able to recreate it. So very cool.
Yes. And the most recent group that we had, it's children related, and it actually happened in the children's room. They had, I keep calling it a geoport. It's not a geoport. It looks kind of similar, but like a ghost box. Is it
one of the EDI or EDI plus boxes?
No. This group had one of those. But they didn't use it up there. Crap. I'm just going to go with geoport. Okay. I'm just going to go with that. Because I don't have one of these machines that they use, but it works essentially the same as a geoport. So they got that sitting up there, and there's a lady sitting on the ground. They placed it on the chair, and she's sitting close, listening. And another team member that she had was taking pictures. In this picture, you can see like a shadow, essentially standing behind her. And to me, it looks child-sized.
Okay.
Because they were getting a lot of childlike responses through this thing. And that was really neat. So these children are really playful. They're very into the different equipment. It's like fascinating to them, I guess. Given the family they come from, really.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
They probably got the wheels turning up there in the spirit world too. They're like, ooh. But yeah, they're so crazy. Like I love these spirits there. They're very, very playful. And they'll follow you outside too. The little boy will.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just the house, but the whole grounds.
Yes.
Very cool.
The little boy, there's an antique shop. My friend owns that, and it's in a building underneath, right next door to the Lotz House. And I was visiting them over there at the Lopes, and I was going to go over to my friend's place, and I kept hearing something. I'm going like this. I'm like, because I've got 4 kids, and I'm looking around like, my kids aren't with me. What is this? Nobody should be tugging on my shirt, And I'm looking like, there's nobody. And then I'm like, hold up. And I start getting my recorder out. Unfortunately, I didn't catch anything, but I did talk to some of the employees, and they said, yeah, we've gone over to help her with something or gone out to our cars out back, and we felt similar things. So it's almost like when you're leaving and kids are like, no, don't leave, they want to play,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I think we have one of them that plays peekaboo from behind the curtains in the keeping room to the right when you
Mm-hmm.
walk in. We've caught evidence of that. Like, it's where it looks like somebody going like that outside,
Yeah.
and they do it like 2 or 3 times. So they're so playful.
Oh, and see, I love that type of activity at the locations. Nothing that's, malevolent or anything. Just good, solid activity.
Yeah,
And especially ones that you can kind of back up with the history. That's
yeah.
what I love about the historical places. Vicky Norris says, ask about the soldier name carved on upstairs bed.
Willard, I love Willard. He's so awesome. Oh man. So for the longest time, um, this gentleman, they called him, I believe, William, because we
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really know.
Yeah.
We did the best to find out, but the initials, they are carved on there. If I can find my picture, I will send it or post it
Oh
in the
yeah,
comments
please
or something.
do. Yeah.
But it'll have to be afterwards because I can't get on my phone right
Sure,
now.
sure.
But
After when we reshare it, we'll put the
I'm
comments.
pretty sure I've got a picture somewhere of those initials. But it's WT, and it looks like it was carved with like maybe, and I could be wrong. It's just the way it looks to me, like some sort of knife or maybe a bayonet or
Mm-hmm.
something. But it's very, very prominent, and it's kind of in between the bedside table and the bed. You look
Mm-hmm.
directly on the ground. Um,
Okay.
but we have some very talented friends of the Lotz House, and psychic mediums and sensitives and people that can do all that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
through them coming in, we did some research also after one of them, she channels, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
she channeled him, and we found out his name was actually Willard.
Okay.
Very interesting name.
Yeah.
We figured out he is Catholic. So I always bring rosary to him,
Mm-hmm.
because he obviously had some traumatic experience in the war. He was there as a patient for a
Mm-hmm.
time and unfortunately passed. And so, if a rosary brings him comfort, then Willard is going to
Mm-hmm.
have a rosary every time Nikki's there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the gentleman with the initials up there.
Very cool.
I actually have a doll, a German doll. It's from 1850s, I believe, and I named him Willard in honor of the spirit there. So
Very cool. Any other interesting little carvings or interesting things kind of like that have a story?
I'm not carvings,
Mm-hmm.
but as in every Civil War house or that was used as a hospital, there are lots of blood stains. Lots.
Okay.
Did you catch that?
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I am not the funniest bird in the nest, okay? But I had to say it. I could not resist. But yeah, there's little things like that, like the bloodstains, the cannonball marks.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like something like a bloodstain type thing, but where the cannonball came through and hit the floor of the second floor and stuff. Mr. Lotz did do some repairs,
Mm-hmm.
and which is very uncharacteristic of him to do very quick repair, and not put this much love and care into it. But you can see the difference.
Gotcha.
And that in itself is a story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, just having the presence of mind to keep the location as it is with the I mean, there's a church here in Charleston, Tennessee, that still has the boards at the windows where the horses were tied up and they gnawed on the boards,
Oh,
and so just having the presence of mind to keep things like that and keep it original, I guess original to the tragedy,
yeah,
is really just amazing to me that over the years, the cannonball damage, the blood stains on the floor, that
yeah.
sort of thing. That's just amazing that location still has that.
Oh, yeah. They did not. They did not get rid of it. The one in the keeping room, I have a hard time looking at this one sometimes, and I don't know if that's just the empathic part of me, but it I laugh about it. I'm giggling in my mind. You see me kind of chuckling, is because when I looked at it, I was like, that almost looks like a butt. Like it looks like I hate to laugh about it, but you got to find some humor, because otherwise you would be sad all the time if you really thought about the war. But it almost looked like, unfortunately, maybe a gentleman was propped up against the wall or something, and it looked like that's just where the blood dripped.
Yeah.
And it took the shape of his rear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and then there's several more throughout the house. I'm probably not even aware of all of them. But I need to go on a blood expedition. I need to go find all the blood spots.
That would definitely be interesting. Vicky says, did they find shoes in the basement?
I'm not sure if they found them in the basement. I know they did find, actually, they probably did. In the display case, there's like scraps of different things that they found, like bags, pictures, weapons. So it makes sense there might have been some shoes found.
Okay.
There was quite a few things found under there, and they're still digging.
Wow. I'm sure it's probably one of those locations that, because I know of several in that area that you go to, and don't be surprised if you see something new, because they are continually doing stuff. Vicky made another comment that is very cool. She thinks that one of the best parts is he didn't use any slaves to build it. And that is interesting, because it's kind of interesting that we're having this conversation like we are, because I watched a documentary over the weekend while I was up at my mom's talking about the Civil War in Tennessee during the Civil War. And it was talking about, the brother fighting brother, and how Tennessee was actually pretty divided during the Civil War. My great grandfather, two of his, so they would have been my great uncles, two of my great uncles in the same family fought for the Union, and one fought for the Confederacy. And over here in East Tennessee, the majority were Union sympathizers and did not own slaves, just because we weren't producing cotton, we were producing wheat. And so Middle and West Tennessee were more Confederate because of the cotton and because of the slaves. And so, and they owned a lot more slaves. Most here in East Tennessee in the mountains, they didn't own slaves, and it was much less prevalent. And so, that's definitely a very interesting point, that he did not own slaves and didn't use any to build that beautiful house.
Yeah. I mean, he I almost got a little choked up, because that's one of my most favorite things about him, is that he recognized, the guy worked his tail off to become a master woodworker. This is not just, I went to shop class in college and in high school, and I took some carpentry classes in college. No. This is your life. This is what you live and breathe for. And the man took it very seriously, and he loved everything that he did. Yeah. And he took pride in that. And I'm not saying that other people didn't have pride. I'm just saying
no.
He really took enjoyment out of doing it himself.
Well, German engineering too is something, that's one of the things they're known for today with, Volkswagens, Audis, different, clocks and timepieces. German engineering, it's second to none. And so I can see that there's probably a lot of pride there. And, coming over here and doing that, you probably saw a lot of that German engineering in the house and what he was doing.
Yes. Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got some great comments, and we've had some great questions over here. I would like to thank everyone that has participated here in the live chat. excuse me, we had some folks from the UK over here, and of course, at this time it's 3 a.m. over there.
Oh my gosh.
So I would definitely like to thank them for tuning in and listening to some of our American history. And I'd like to thank you as well, Nikki, for sharing. Do you have any final stories or that you would like to share, or as far as either the hauntings or anything you've experienced there?
There's been a lot of SLS activity from different teams that I've been lucky enough to witness. As a matter of fact, Pac-Man Paranormal and PRGI are two of the ones that got the longest running. I think Pac-Man's was probably 15 to 20 minutes long.
Wow.
And the other one was like 10 or 11 minutes, I think. I might have the times wrong, but I know they were quite a long evidence. So that was really, really neat, and I got to witness that. But you can actually rent the Lotz House for the evening.
Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
So you get it, and it's like $500. And how you get it is you call the Lotz House and you speak to Thomas. He's usually the one that arranges that. If he's not there, you can leave a message for him and whatnot, or maybe ask the other ones if they can take the message. But Thomas is usually the one who I deal with. And there's an email, info@Lotz House or Lotz House, however you want to say it, .com. I think that's where you can email them and maybe inquire and have a paper trail of your inquiry for the house rental. And it's $500. You get it from I believe it's 6 p.m., 6 or 6:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. You don't have to stay till 2 a.m. if you don't want to, but that's the time frame. And that includes all the house and even the cellar.
Okay. I'm looking here. I'll go ahead and pull this back up. I know there's the admission and prices for the daytime and the historical tours. So people definitely looks like they definitely need to check out Lotz House, LOTZ house.com.
Yes.
And I was looking to see if there was anything listed on the paranormal, but I'm seeing where they're doing ghost tours, but
yeah, they do that. And what that is, unless they did last year this thing where they got little groups in at a time, and it's like 2 hours long, and you go through there, you get a snippet of history and a snippet of ghost stories in each room. That's what that is.
Okay.
But the rental for the house is a different thing.
Okay. Well, this right here is definitely, I've put the address to this website, which seems to be very informative and very well done. I've got that on the screen. We will also go ahead and in the show notes here on Facebook as well as on YouTube, we'll make sure that we put that information for anyone that's interested in renting the location out for the night. Because I know I definitely want to get up there and plan an investigation and highlight it on one of my episodes.
I would love you to come up there for that.
I will be in touch with you after we get off the air. But yeah, definitely want to do that. And we'll definitely put that information out there so that people can find that. As far as yourself, what are some ways that people can follow you? You have you do live streams from time to time, correct?
Yeah, when the mood strikes. Or when the kids aren't like, Mom, It's random, very, very random, but I do have a couple of Facebook pages, one for the bracelets I make. That's Nikki's Crafted Blessings. And then I have my 2 cents. So Nikki's 2 cents is where I post different things. Sometimes I'll go live. I'll just talk about random things. It might be a location I was at. It might be something going on in the world that I've blurt out my opinion on. So it's very, very random. I need to get more consistent on it, but I do have them. Okay.
And we'll make sure we put those on there as well. Is that spelled with TWO or the number 2?
TWO.
Okay. And so we'll make sure we get that information out there. And if no one else has any other comments on here, I'm going to go ahead and give everyone just a few minutes to see if they've got any comments. But we had a few people that tuned in just a little bit later. But Al says this is for sure one that he will have to add on his to go list. So
it's amazing.
So yeah, I know it's one that I definitely want to add as well, and I know I've seen a lot of different comments on here as well. So
I love you too, Vicky.
Vicky is wonderful. I just adore her, and I've enjoyed watching your all's adventures. You know, as far as taking pictures and
in the bathroom selfie. I speak Vietnamese.
But yes, definitely. So, thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead. We've been on here for about an hour now. So, thank you so much, Nikki, for everything, for sharing stories about this amazing location and about your background, as well as, just everything that's kind of going on, so thank you. Thank the folks in the chat room. We've got a couple different announcements that I'm going to go ahead and make, and let me make sure that I don't miss any dates here on my calendar. I'm still trying to get my schedule posted up online as well, and hopefully within the next couple days I'll have that. But this weekend, I know you guys have heard me talk a lot about some motorcycle rides that are coming up. This weekend is the Scholarship Dart Run that's named in honor of my father. And it's going to, we're doing a scholarship for, I'm working with the Widow's Sons Masonic Riders Association. My dad was a 50-year plus Mason, as well as a teacher for 39 years of all things science. And that's awesome. So we've come together, Ghost Biker and the Masonic Lodge, and we've created a scholarship in honor of my dad. And so it's going to go to a student at Scott County High School in East Tennessee that is interested in the science fields. So we're having a dart run. We've got a page for that. And but that's going to be this Saturday. I know the gas shortage and all that stuff is supposedly over with now, hopefully. So it's all vehicles. Yeah. All vehicles welcome, motorcycles, cars, trucks, it doesn't matter. But we're doing a dart run. We've got all the rules and all the information on that this Saturday from 10 a.m. till 2:30. I know I saw a few comments in the sidebar of folks that said they're going to be attending. So looking forward to seeing that. We hope to raise a lot of money and have some good fellowship for a good cause. We've got that going on. The very next weekend is the 3rd annual RM Brooks bike event. We're going to have a haunted ride with Ghost Biker that's going to go to the location. I've not announced the ride yet as far as where that's going to start just yet. That will be coming very, very soon, so y'all can plan. But the bike event is going to be from 5 until whenever people clear out from the RM Brooks. That will be next weekend, which will be, let me make sure I got my dates right, because I don't know what day it is now. That will be May 22nd. And then the first weekend in June 4th and 5th in Athens, Tennessee at the historic Clegg House, historic and very haunted Clegg House in Athens, Tennessee. The people who own the Scream Chamber are partnering with Task Force Paranormal, and they're doing the first annual Scream Fest. And so that's going to take place on the 4th and 5th. This was an event. We had them on the show back 2 months ago talking about this, but the event, due to weather, had to be rescheduled. So we've got Mother Legacy that's going to be performing. I'm going to be a special guest, Soul Sisters Paranormal, as well as many, many other investigators and craftsmen, artisans, that sort of thing. So that is June 4th and 5th. You guys definitely want to check that out and go back and check out the episode where we talked about that. So a lot of other things coming up. We won't go ahead and get into that now, but I'm going to be speaking in Michigan in July and New Mexico in September. So, and then several different Harley events that are coming up, but we'll get that information out. So, throwing a lot of things at y'all right quick in the last few minutes. But again, thank you everyone so much for tuning in. We've got great shows planned. I've got shows booked through August of some great people who are coming on. And oh yes, Vicky said the meet and greet. She's talking about the meet and greet at the Old Stone Jail in Franklin, Kentucky. I think that's what, July 31st, I believe. Yeah, is it June or July? It's July 31st. Yeah, and so I know I'm going to be one of the special guests there, and a lot of great investigators are going to be at this very, very cool. If people, I'm also going to have Bill on my show to talk about the Old Stone Jail here.
That's a great
really,
place.
really soon. Yes, I've got to get up there and investigate that one as well. The walkthrough that I did was amazing. And so yeah, anyways, I won't keep everyone much longer because we could talk about things coming up. I'm just excited there are things coming up, that people are getting back out, investigating these great historic locations, doing motorcycle rides, doing meet and greets. I'm just so excited, that all this is happening now. So, so anyways, until next Thursday, I know, next week, let me see who my guest is next week. Get my calendar here. Next week, I have David Flowers on, and he's going to be talking about the Magnolia Hotel in Texas. I know he was in the chat room earlier, so I'm excited to hear about that location. Yes, I see him now. So I'm excited to hear about that location as well. So anyways, I hope to see you guys that are coming to the Dart Run on Saturday. And if not, we'll see you guys next Thursday night. Thank you all so much.